For this video today, I wanted to talk about if you're thinking or if you're concerned, you're not really sure if your loved one needs home care, needs caregivers in the home. And so I'm going to present today 6 signs that your loved one needs in-home care. Now, remember, you want to be as objective as possible. And it may take a few weeks or a few months of observation. It's not something usually you want to spring on someone unless they're in immediate danger. Okay. So what I always think of is just use your 5 senses. 6 signs, 5 senses. And it's really just your observation that you want to present to the person, because more often than not, most people do not want home care. I mean, it might be a stranger. They don't want to lose their independence. So even the thought of bringing that up may create conflict. And it's a very emotional decision you think of, right? So meet people where they're at. Again, I'll start with the 6 signs for this video. Number 1, if you notice your friend or loved one is forgetting, one of the top telltale signs that I look for is when someone is having trouble completing sentences, or they're talking and then they lose their thought in the middle of the sentence. And then a lot of times they will apologize. They'll catch themselves and they'll say, wait a minute, I'm so sorry. I can't even complete my sentence. I lost my train of thought. Now, we all lose our train of thought at times, but literally it happens almost every conversation or every few conversations. So that's the number 1 sign is from a cognitive perspective. If your loved one is having difficulty remembering information, can't complete a sentence, for instance, and you're trying to coach them through it and they still can't remember, and then you move on. So that's number 1. Number 2 sign is when you walk into the home and you smell or you see that the person is really not taking care of their personal hygiene. If there's a body odor, for instance, if you smell urine, as an example, there are things all over the place in the home and they're not being cleaned properly. Their clothes they're wearing, they're not bathing themselves. They don't have to bathe every day, but they're not bathing themselves at all. Maybe even it's been a few weeks or not. That is really, again, neglecting their personal care. So again, using your smell, using your sight, and just really understanding where they are. And that's number 2 sign of they may potentially need in-home care. Number 3 sign is if they are withdrawing. Your loved one is from withdrawing social interactions or relationships. Maybe they used to have a dinner once a month with friends or family. They stop showing up and you keep inviting them. They're avoiding your calls or your text messages. They're withdrawing. We are very much social creatures, all of us. And so it is very important to maintain that social aspect, even as you age. And so if they're withdrawing, they want to stay home all the time, or they're not answering anything, that is number 3, is just your observation using your sight around social interactions. Number 4, if you notice, if you go into the home and let's say bills are all over the place, paperwork, mail, you see a stack of mail that's not being looked through, maybe even see overdue statements that are stated, or they're mismanaging their finances, not paying bills. That's, again, your observation of maybe they need in-home care, someone to help them at least get their mail, open it up for them and present it to them so that they can stay on top of it. Number 5 sign that your loved one needs in-home care is if just their personalities, it's becoming out of the ordinary, unusual behavior. As an example, maybe they used to be very social people and they're overly quiet, or they're easily triggered or agitated by many different things that typically they were not historically. Change in behavior, maybe even notice some sundowning, which is really just as the day progresses, they may be getting more irritable as the sun goes down. That's what they call it, sundowning. That may be, again, another sign using your eyesight around 6 of one of the signs where your loved one needs in-home care. Number 6, the last one I want to talk about of where your loved one needs in-home care is if they're simply struggling with mobility. So you see this all the time. It's okay that they have a walker, but you see it happening, or they have a hard time getting up, or they say, hey, I just sit on the couch for 8 hours a day, as an example, or they have a history of falling more and more. Again, I've seen this where you go into the home and someone has some scars and that typically aren't normal. You might want to ask about that and say, how's it going? How are you moving along? Household chores. This is very easy to look at. If, let's say, typically you don't have to be a neat freak, but let's say typically they keep it fairly clean and now there's just more and more clutter that you're seeing in the home. You walk in, things don't seem like they have organization. There's a pile of mail here. There's a pile of dirty clothes here. Let's say they used to always make their bed and the bed's not being made at all. That they have a pet and the pet is starting from a personal hygiene perspective. You could smell the pet a bit more. These are all things that you'll notice where their mobility, they're struggling with household chores. That is a telltale sign of potentially your loved one needs in-home. The last one I just thought of is just a bonus. And I was supposed to cover 6, but I want to be very, very giving in this video. The last one I would say is just around, and this really is, maybe it's subjective, but if the person talks about, I have no one to talk to, I'm a little lonely, I'm isolated. This is also a sign, maybe a bonus number 7 sign around maybe they need in-home care. This is probably more companionship. But again, a lot of caregivers don't just offer companionship. They can help with all these things that we talked about from the prior signs. But if the person says, I don't have anyone to talk to, or it's really hard for me to get out of the house and everyone seems to be busy, you might need a caregiver to come out and really just socially interact with this person. Okay. So again, the 6 signs, original 6 signs, I want to re-summarize is number 1, forgetting or having difficulty recalling information or finishing a sentence in a conversation. Number 7, they are neglecting their personal care or hygiene, whether you use your senses around smell, maybe cleanliness of the home. Okay. Number 3, they're withdrawing from social relationships or interactions. So they stop going to events. Maybe they used to do a lot of hiking. They stopped doing that all of a sudden. So that's number 3. Number 4, they're mismanaging their finances, not paying bills. You might see some overdue mail or some receipts, things of that nature. Number 5, they're displaying some unusual behavior. They're overly agitated or quiet, so they're really not themselves. Decline is usually slow over time, particularly if it's a chronic condition or disease. So you have to watch this over weeks or months even. Number 6 is they're struggling with mobility, so you're watching them move around. Are they in pain, or do they almost give up and just say, I'm just going to sit here? If you go into the home, they're struggling with household chores to keep their home running properly. And then number 7, the bonus one, was just really around if the person admits they're starting to feel a little lonely or I have no one to talk to. Those are certain words people may use. You'll hear that, and it's a sense of sadness. So again, that number 7 sign is potentially your loved one needs in-home care. All right, that's all I have for today. Take care. Thanks.